I love how in the thumbnail I just saw there, it looks like I'm kissing the title Startup Life. I haven't been in this space in about 4 or 5 months, and it just struck me tonight that I needed to be. The last time I posted a video about the transition in my life, it was the fall, and I was in Seattle packing up my stuff and getting ready to move. And my topic today is startup life. And so for many months now, and the reason I haven't been in this space is because I've really been in the action of creating. In my own transition process, I went through, there's like this whole, it's like this whole arc of transition where there's an awakening. There's like an awakening, and then you're like, oh man, I really need to shift things. And then you get into it and you're like, oh wow, I'm gonna have to end a lot of things. You can't just always start new things. So then I went into this, after this beautiful awakening period, realizing what I wanted to create, and then went into this period of destruction. Oh, there's all these things I have to exit and deconstruct. And so there was that whole period. And then I just went into this abyss has such a negative tone. I went into this blank space, and for a while, and I needed that space. I know now that I needed that space to reimagine what my life was going to be. So, yeah, once I reimagined my life and had a vision of what I wanted to go create, kind of getting more solid from that initial awakening period. That initial awakening period, it pointed to a lot, but it wasn't like a blueprint, So once I had the blueprint in hand, it was like, wow, it's action time, it's go time. So last I checked in here, I was in the process of packing up my stuff in Seattle. And then I was very busy for many months, actually creating my new life here in Laguna Beach. And I'm pausing today. The reason I wanted to make this video is I have so many moments. I just needed to celebrate. I needed a space to celebrate and give myself some grace. I have a lot of days where I feel like, oh my God, this is freaking taking forever. When is my new life gonna start? As if lives are like, I don't know, storefronts, companies. I'm gonna go with the retail metaphor because I spent 4 years of my life helping to launch Nordstrom in Canada. I worked on that startup team, and so I'm using that period of my working life as a metaphor to help me process through what's happening now in my life. And I'll tell you what, we worked for almost 2 years behind the scenes before we were ready to have a storefront open for business with operating hours. And I don't know. Like, I don't know what, I guess I just expect, like probably a lot of people do, that transition, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like pack my stuff and move, and yeah, it'll take like a week. What? No, it doesn't. Oh my God, like anybody who does transition that fast is, I don't know. And I know sometimes in life we have to, because like we have to or whatever. There's all kinds of forces at work. But that is not good transition. I mean, you don't have time to like really, anyhow, now I'm just defending it, whatever. I have a point of view here that we move through things way too quickly and have way too high of expectations for how fast things are going to happen. And so for me, like with multiple pillars of big transition happening in my life, huge shifts, work, personal, geographical, like holy cow, of course it took me a few months to work through that. So I guess I'm just like, the point of this video is to pause in this moment and appreciate, like, I'm sitting here now and I'm like, why don't you have this done? Why don't you have your LLC set up? Why don't you have a full slate of coaching clients? Like, why isn't your house, like, why do you still need furniture for your home? The answer is because transition freaking takes time. Like, literally everything is new. Like, when you are creating, I mean, there's a reason we have rituals and routines in life. It's because if you have to, like, recreate everything newly every single day, like, I don't know, we'd be dead. We'd all be dead. That's my theory. And sometimes in life, we have to start over. Like, sometimes we have to end things and create something new. And every time you create, and so, like, there's high value in it, but man, there is very little efficiency. Woo! Very little efficiency. And the efficient achiever in me does not like it. And so it is. So, yeah, I mean, like, that's what happens. Startups take time. They lose money before they make money. They take months and months, sometimes years, to build the processes and the structures necessary to actually have a customer-facing business. A lot of startups, before they ever have customers, they've got to, like, figure this shit out. So in the startup called Caitlin, I just want to celebrate that I think I'm doing really well. I'm moving along as swiftly as I can without making sacrifices in resonance. And I think once you've created a life that's dissonant enough that you have to vacate it and deconstruct it, you get real clear that you're going to be very, very mindful and intentional about what you're creating. So yes, I took a little extra time and care to choose where I was going to relocate to, the actual geographic location. I made a few trips. That took me, I don't know, over the course of 6 weeks. I made a few trips to a few different places. That was enormously helpful. Had I gone with my first instinct, I wouldn't be sitting where I am today. It's not to say it would have been wrong, but I know I'm happier where I am because I paused long enough to consider it. And then, of course, once I got to the geographical location, Southern California, there was a little bit more refining to do. Like, okay, which town am I going to live in? Which neighborhood? Like, looking at places. And man, I think back, and if I rushed myself the way I have so much in my life, I wouldn't have chosen a place, an actual house, I'm going to say neighborhood and home to live in that would have really fit my very clear values around what I wanted to create. Like, I wanted to be in a place that was close to the beach and that was surrounded by nature and quiet, and that was bright and open, and just those were the things that were really important to me. Like, I don't care if there are restaurants nearby. Like, I don't care if I could take public transit, like, whatever. I don't need that, right? So it's getting really clear, and I'm so glad I didn't go. I lived without my own place for almost 10 months at the time I was looking. And I was so tempted on my first trip down here to just pick a place. I was so exhausted, and I had made up my mind that I really wanted to choose a place that weekend. And I realized I'm trying to make myself like a place so I can pick it. So it was a no for me. So I had to move into short-term. I found a short-term rental for 6 weeks, and I lived there while I sat and watched the real estate market. So yeah, that added an extra 6 weeks to my timeline. And I was here, so that's great. But it also, like, kind of delayed the actual process of moving, which is a bummer, and added, like, some inefficiency, right? Like, moving into a short term, moving out, like, all of that. Not efficient. Not efficient time-wise. This is why I do these videos, because I have these aha moments. Not efficient time-wise. Very efficient value-wise. Resonance-wise. So I think what I'm learning in all of this is, right, like, okay, let me finish that thought and then I'll move on. Yeah, super valuable because it gave me an opportunity. It bought me time to find the place that really fit what I wanted. And I'm gonna like live and work here. So this is really important. I'm not gonna leave for 12 or 14 hours a day like I did when I worked at Nordstrom. It was like, yes, I wanted to like where I lived, but in retrospect, probably didn't matter all that much because I didn't spend that much time there. But this place, I'm gonna work from home. I work from home, I live here. It needs to be great. So where I was going with this is what I'm learning as I'm processing through all this is when you're going through transition, it is very important to slow down. I don't want to say slow down and get it right, but it is very important to slow down and listen. Pay attention, because usually the reason you're going through transition in the first place is because you weren't living an authentic life, or you created a life and it just, maybe it was authentic at one point, but it's not working for you anymore. It's not serving you. So it's super important to get clear. And sometimes it takes time to get clear. So I just, going forward with all my clients, going through transition, I am going to be a fierce advocate to, take your time. Be fierce, be bold. Don't pretend about the things that aren't working, and be real about having to end things and deconstruct stuff and start over, but don't rush it. Don't rush it, because you may just recreate some of the situations you had before. So that's my big thing. And so I'm just over here doing the very best I can to loop back to my current space of today, February 18th, 2019. It still feels like there's so much to do in this startup called Caitlin, and I really want to shift my perspective of, I'm tired of feeling like I'm behind, or I should be moving faster, or why can't I get more done? Bottom line, when you are starting over, everything's like, every single thing has to be thought out. Every single thing has to be planned. There's a lot of research to be done. There's a lot of also just getting into the new rhythm of things. That takes time. And what I want to shift is, I don't want to be impatient. I want to be impatient in a good way. Impatient because I'm so excited to create this life I'm living, but I want to be a little bit more gracious and patient with myself in a way that will allow me to be in the marvel of what I'm creating and be in the joy of it. And I think that will actually, my coach shared with me once, you have to go slow to go fast. And I believe that is so, so true here. Another coach shared with me, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. So I think there's so much wisdom in that. I think I just, in these moments where I get like all crazy and achievey and wanting to just get shit done, I have to take a deep breath, pause, and appreciate the blank canvas of my life before me, and just delight that I get to create it. Delight that it's taking a while. Wow, isn't that great? Isn't that great that it's taking a while? Because I actually get to sit here and consider what it's going to look like. And I guess I also need to remember to ask for help. Like, sometimes if things are taking longer than I want them to, and I don't really want to be in the creation of them, ask for help. I need to remember to do that too. It may be the startup called Caitlin's Life, and nobody does it alone. So remembering that too in this moment. But yeah, I'm gonna sit here for another few seconds to really make sure, like, do I really believe I'm just being honest with myself? Yeah, startups take a while. I really do believe that from the framework of watching, actually participating in one as part of my work at Nordstrom. It is amazing how much time I spent. So much of my job was just like, oh wow, we got to build a new process from the ground up to do that thing that we just take for granted in the US. Wow, and man, wow, I would work for like weeks on this stuff. Weeks to build new processes for stuff, months sometimes. And then I'd do it again. Oh, we need another new process. And it's like, wow, we really appreciate ritual and rhythm. And there's something really beautiful about starting over because you get to question everything and you get to build it from scratch. And while that's certainly not sustainable forever, all the time, there is beauty in approaching every day of life in a startup mindset of like, what's possible? What's new? What could we create here? I mean, you don't need to reinvent your life every day. Hopefully this is the process of reinvention and transition is, I hope it becomes a rhythm for me throughout the course of my life. I hope it doesn't have to be as dramatic and crazy as it was this past year. I hope I can do it a little less chaotically going forward, and maybe not, and I'll be ready for it. So while I'm hoping that it'll become a rhythm in and of itself, and so going forward I can do it with a little bit more smoothness. And yeah, I hope that like the process of like the startup mindset in my life is sort of more ever present instead of like not present at all, and then all of a sudden like, whoa, we gotta change some things. Because yeah, I'm really just appreciating it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to begin anew. Gotta build new stuffs for everything, new processes, new spaces, new platforms, new foundations, new structures, everything. And there's new ways of being that accompany that too. So I'm also growing into new ways of being. Some of them have preceded it, but some of them are actively, like that's how transition works, I think. Like sometimes you get to a new space of being and you're like, oh, I gotta create different stuff in my life. And then sometimes it works the opposite way. I think sometimes you get to new spaces in your life and you're like, oh, I need a new way of being here. So these are all my random beautiful musings. I think I've said enough. I'm feeling firmer in this delightful startup called Caitlin, and I'm gonna get off this video and give myself a hug.